All right, we ready? Going to give it a try. I'm not going to lean in, but I am going to lean into the material we're talking about today. We're talking ROI. Ready?
Ready.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kleen-Rite Radio podcast. I'm Fix It with Phil. I'm sitting here with my good buddy, Marc Tyndale. Marc, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great today. How are you, Phil?
I'm fantastic. We got a busy week. It's already been busy. We worked over the weekend out at a couple sites that picked up a pump stand and some new faceplates from us. Just went to check out the install and see how everything's going with it. And it seems like the customer's really, really happy.
It's all going well, and we're real proud of that.
Very proud. Very, very proud. I just want to take a second to thank Simonize. We greatly appreciate your support with the podcast.
Sponsoring this series, Raising Your Game, Self-Serve Success.
So at this point in the series, we're diving into ROI.
Return on investment.
I'd like to just take a second and really just talk about what return on investment means. I mean, the ROI spells it out, but when we're talking return on investment, we're really talking about the money that you put into your site, into your business, and how long it's going to take to get that return to you, correct?
Correct. And that return on investment, it speaks more to folks, obviously, who are investing in the car wash. It's not the operator who hasn't done anything for 15 or 20 years and doesn't plan on doing anything for the next 3 or 4 years.
Does return on investment only apply when you have borrowed money from the bank?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you can take cash and, you just don't have debt service when you use the cash.
Okay.
So the return on investment is something that a new investor is going to look at. They're going to share that return on investment with their partners. They're going to talk about that with the bank, and the bank is going to be looking at what they call debt coverage ratio to make sure that you're making a smart investment. Typically, the banks will help you to make a smart investment, and then in addition to that, pro formas from distributors or people like Kleen-Rite can help investors know what their net operating income should be. So you have the way the car wash is operating today, it has a net operating income, whether you have debt or not. The industry standard for expenses has not changed greatly since I've been around 20 plus years. And it's in that 30 to 40% range. Sewer, gas, water, chemicals, maintenance, parts, anything that is just goes right to the expense line is what we consider in that 30 to 40% range. Okay. So let's talk in even numbers just for simplicity. If it costs you, if you're charging $10 to wash a car, let's say that's your average ticket. The industry is telling investors that the cost to wash that car should be in the $3 to $4 range before debt service. So if your debt service is $3, then your net operating income is probably $3 to $4 in that 30 to 40% range. Some people are higher, some people are lower. So we use that, and the way that you get a new ROI when you're reinvesting is, and I've termed this the NNOI, your new net operating income. That's what a bank would look at as your going concern, right? What after stabilization, after you've borrowed some funds and you've bought that new touchless and you bought that new self-serve equipment and you've raised your prices to market pricing, which when an investor is looking at ROI and they're talking to a bank, they are not afraid to charge market pricing.
Right.
The only people afraid to charge market pricing are the older established operators who are just watching the guy down the street. But magically, if somebody were to come in and buy that same site, they're not afraid because they're borrowing money to charge the prices they need to charge to have a modern income from a self-serve in-bay car wash.
And that probably comes with the confidence of having a new site, new equipment, all the latest and greatest.
It does take confidence, right? And it does take some experience. It takes talking to other operators who have done it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes, doing a little bit of research on your own, searching out car washes that are really nice and looking at their price structure, looking at their equipment structure.
So why do you think new investors are willing to take the jump into looking at ROI and debt from a bank versus the long-term guy? Why is he a little shy?
I think it's comfort. They're comfortable and they're okay with the status quo. They're not really looking to raise their game. They're just looking to keep it the same. And a person who gets a little debt is motivated to do better.
Right.
And the debt motivates them. I learned this from an old car wash guy way back a long time ago. And he said the best car washes that he's ever seen are operated with debt.
Yeah.
And in any business, the bigger the business gets, typically there's always debt. The smaller the business gets, sometimes a little more, it's hand to mouth. It's mom to pop. And there typically is less debt in those scenarios.
So somebody that's going in to buy a new site or buy a site from somebody and it's new to them, they're going to the bank with the understanding that, I'm probably already going to have to do a facelift, put new equipment in. Like that's part of their strategy as they walk in. They're probably taking that from the express market and saying, I know I'm going into this site and I'm going to need to buy new equipment. I'm going to need to do all these things right away to give the customer confidence to pay that higher price I'm going to ask.
Yeah, and the customers will pay that higher price when they see that renovation is complete and that you're confident that you can wash a car. They become more confident to use your car wash. And you just back up. You said something really interesting about the new investor. What was that?
That a new investor is going to walk into the bank with the understanding.
Right. Yeah. I needed you to snap me back a little bit. So, so they have to, right? So they're borrowing money already to buy that car wash. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense for them to replace all the equipment when they're borrowing that money. It's a one-time, expense that when they see that payment structure, and then they back into it what they want to charge based on the amount of cars that car wash is already washing. Mm-hmm. Assuming you might lose, I don't think you'll lose any, but
if you lose 10%
conservatively, if you lose 10%, I've seen it time and time again. I had a lot of customers who were charging, let's say $1.50 for a self-serve bay, $7 for an in-bay, but the site was super tired. Like way tired. They only accepted quarters. They didn't have credit cards. They didn't have a sign. And we would go in, we would work with their bank. We'd show them a pro forma and we'd say, okay, if you borrow this much for equipment, this much for the building, and you go from $1.50 to $4.
Yeah.
And you wash the same amount of cars, automatically the ROI is there.
Right.
And it's a great business if you look at it that way. It's not a great business if you go into an older car wash and try to operate it the same way that the guy before was operating it. And the question I've always had is, why do people not have the confidence to upgrade their own site when somebody will buy that site from them, flip it around, and do exactly what we're talking about today? Exactly. And in my experience, I have a very good success rate with this. People who were maybe doing in a 3-in-1 or a 4-in-1 or a 4-in-2, 3-in-2, whatever it may be, the site was tired. Maybe they added an extra in-bay when the new investor came in.
Right.
But the site was really tired. And it was doing $75,000 or $125,000 gross a year. I've done it myself. Come in, get everything up front that you need to make it so you're not piecemealing it.
Do it all
at once. Do it right. Even if you have to shut it down for a little bit. And we're not talking 20, 30% increases in revenue. We're talking 3 times increases. We've taken a lot of sites that were in the 125 range to the 350, 475, some of them 500.
Yeah.
And it was just looking at it like it taking an old business and making it a new business, not putting lipstick on a something. Don't say it. Yeah.
But that definitely, I mean, that goes back to one of the previous episodes of planning, like taking what we've learned from the tunnel and new express market, all of the planning and forethought that they've put into the sites that they're doing, and incorporating that into when you're looking at redoing your site. You know, it takes a little bit of planning, but if you do the planning, you can prove out the ROI and you can shake that cold feet feeling,
right,
and feel good about walking into the bank and borrowing money to, you know, get that debt ratio.
Yeah. And in fairness, we're getting a lot of calls. A lot of these existing operators are doing that same thing. They're just looking for a little help, and they can get that help from, you know, Kleen-Rite, or they can get that help from their distributor.
Yeah.
They can get that help from people in other businesses who have done similar things with restaurants maybe. And I think that the information is out there. You do have to do your homework, but the car wash industry has so much runway in the self-serve and in-bay because of these car washes that are not meeting their potential.
Right.
And the ROI is there. The operators just need the confidence to know that the ROI is there. But the part that really has me surprised is that new investors know the ROI is there. And they'll listen. They'll listen a lot more times to outside help than somebody that's been doing it. I don't think that's human nature.
I think it's that, and I think it's good enough attitude. Like, it's been working for 30 years. Why am I going to change it now?
Yeah.
Right. I just want to go back. I know we've said a bunch of different phrases and terms here, and I just want to make sure that we like really cover that stuff. So, cost of goods. I know we dialed in on that, and it was soap, labor, utilities, water, insurance, right? We need to somebody that's looking to do an investment needs to actually compile all this information, know what it really costs them to run their site at what they're, you know, at the amount of cars that they're washing, to be able to confidently go into the bank and say, hey, I want to borrow X amount of money, and this is what I know it will turn into, right?
100%. And I was very generous. I used to share my cost of goods with people, so it was easy for me to give people confidence because I could share real data with them, and I still do that today with people all over the country. And it just helps them get the confidence. If they know somebody is doing it already, they're okay to do it. Yeah, the proof is in the pudding, per se. Yeah. And then the second thing was debt coverage ratio. Right. So a bank typically is looking for a 1.2 minimum debt coverage ratio. So, and they'll do a cash flow analysis. If you're borrowing money, at any time I've borrowed money, which probably since 2000, we've done it 4 times. Okay. Successfully. Wow. Yeah. That's a lot. It's a lot. 4 times since 2000, you said? At least 4 times. Yeah. With 7 sites. I mean, some of those were site acquisitions. And anytime we acquired a site, we never operated it the same way. We always wanted to make it branded and a fresh site. And there's so many sites. It's hard to find a site that's perfect. You can walk right into it. Most of them need something. And it's if you can find a site that doesn't need anything, buy it. It's going to be more expensive, I would think, but
But ROI still comes into that as well.
It's all relative, and it's all directly proportional to the current sales that site has.
So debt coverage ratio, I want to go back to that again. Debt coverage ratio is basically, if from a mechanic standpoint, right, is what your site can make based on the money you want to borrow. Is that a simplified way to say that?
Yeah, it's a calculation of sales and cash flow, right, versus your debt payment. So if you want to borrow $100, you need to make sure that you always have 20% coverage for that $100.
So it's basically proving that your site can make enough money to cover the debt that
on
you're
its own
borrowing
on its own without the bank. A lot of commercial lenders know that people have assets when they're buying stuff, but they really want the business to stand on its own with the cash flow analysis that they do.
Yeah.
All banks are different, but that's a pretty standard down the middle process.
But that would also lead into why it's important to know, I believe your coin term was NNO.
Right.
Why?
And
right?
So yeah, new net operating income. So the couple projects that I've been involved in where I was the one partner that was dealing mostly with the bank, and we would have to pro forma out over 3 to 5 years. Year one is basically what are we doing now in sales, and they want to see your P&Ls and they want to see your cost. And what they do is they take that and they add the loan funds to it, and then you pro forma out what your new sales are going to be. And this is the rub. This is why folks don't want to. The ones that don't want to do it, this is why they don't want to do it. It's because they don't have the confidence that those sales will get from that
$1.50 to
pre
$4,
NNO to the new net operating income. We always had the confidence, and it worked. I mean, it's worked every time. It's working great now, and you're conservative, but you're also realistic, but it's all done through the programs and the pricing. The programs meaning adding the clubs, adding the bundle packages, adding the more features to the dial, getting people to spend more time, and the pricing. It's really the pricing is the key to it.
So what do you think the best way? I'm a new car wash owner, or I'm a 30-year vet who has just been operating the site as is. What's the best way for me to start moving towards commissioning a project like this?
Okay. Yeah. So, there are geographic concerns. We hear a lot of geographic concerns, a small town. I'm in the South. But I challenge everyone who's listening. Okay. Find another small town where somebody's doing it the exact opposite that you are, and they're successful. Yeah. How are they doing that? Yeah. They're in a small town. Now, I know there are outliers. I mean, I'm not insane to think that every small town in America can be successful at this, but most can. Right. And there are a lot that already are. So search those out, find that small town of 5. Some of the best case studies that we ever were successful with were towns of 5,000 to 6,000 people. And the small towns have an advantage because in a small town, everybody knows what you're doing.
The buzz.
Yeah. The buzz.
Town buzz.
I did one for actually a relative in a really, really small town. I mean, it's where our hunting cabin is up north. And you would go to lunch, and people at lunch around all the tables were talking about the project wash you were working on down the street, and the owner, and it's all good buzz. Yeah. And they're the people who use that car wash. In a big town, people don't notice things quite as much. There's more competition. They'll drive by it without thinking about it. But that's why when you see the renovations happening, that is really the best sign you can put out is renovations.
Yeah, when you have tradesmen on your site.
Oh my gosh,
working,
it builds anticipation.
Yeah, people can't wait to see the changes that are getting made. Oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. There's new lights, the bays are getting redone, all that type of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're here to tell you that if you're thinking about doing this, but you don't have the confidence, if you want to do it, but you don't have the confidence, give us a call. We will help you, or we'll put you to a distributor who will help you.
Absolutely.
I'll put you to another operator who has done it, who will help you. The wonderful thing about the car wash industry is there's so many people who will help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys who car wash love to car wash, and they love to talk about car wash.
We love to talk about car wash. We love to try to car wash guys love to try to get other people to try what we're trying.
Yeah.
Which is different from other industries.
Yeah.
Other industries are very secretive. I rarely had somebody that, if I had a really good customer who was doing something really well, I rarely had them, unless the other guy was right down the street, say, oh, you can't bring anybody by here. We were always given tours of the successful sites, and they would talk to that owner. They would pick that up, and the people who search that out usually do it. If they're not searching it out, they probably don't want to do it. And hey, if you're 85 or 95 years old and you want to just sell it, that's your why. You're fork in the road.
Yeah.
Then sell it.
Yeah. Let that next investor go to the bank and get the money.
And he will. And he'll be able to do it.
Yeah. And he'll take that 80% site to a 20% site
in a minute.
And he'll get his ROI.
I'm shocked by the amount of opportunities that I'm seeing across the country for what you can buy self-serve in-bay car washes for. Part of the market has dropped out, and they checked out. And those car washes are
diamonds in the rough
for sale for obscenely low numbers that you can take. And, there's a lot of just self-service only. You go in, maybe they're only doing 80 grand, gross sales, and it was maybe 6 or 8 bays of self-serve. You could add an in-bay or 1 or 2 in-bays in there. And, in the lens I look through, I look at that like a $300,000, $400,000, or $500,000 site.
Yeah.
That shocks a lot of people, but there are guys doing that all over the country, even in small, medium-sized towns.
So do you think, everybody, some of the people that we've talked to, they say, I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to take the risk of reinvesting that much money into this site when I'm doing well now. I'm doing okay. Right? Is it really like, if you plan that out, if you plan your site rehab, you plan all that out, you have your NNOI, and you go to the bank and it's proven out, and the bank says, yeah, we believe in you, just like, we believe in what you're telling us this site can do. At that point in your mind, is this still a risk?
Well, risk is personal, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think you can convince anybody listening here that doesn't want to do it. But I think our job is, if you do want to do it,
or if you've thought about it, you probably should do it. If you're thinking about it, or you're thinking about how much you are leaving on the table, we're probably speaking to you, right? If you are not listening to this, or you've already turned it off, and you said those guys don't understand my market, we probably do. Yeah. We've talked to somebody in your area or an area like yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that previously in another session, we talked about the me watching you and you watching me effect. And the guys who are doing this and who are penciling out their ROI, and they're borrowing money, and they're buying equipment, and they're raising their prices, they don't care what you're doing. They care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I think we're speaking. They're just agreeing with us. So we're not convincing them anything.
No, they're on the other end, like, oh yeah, I get it, guys.
Mark and Phil are right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the people who think that Mark and Phil are
Looney Tunes, and we don't understand their market. And then there's everybody in between who could go one way or the other. But it's a great business, and it's self-serve in-bay is not dead. As a matter of fact, is super live, and we can tell by the fact that our volume and equipment.
We can tell by our phone volume, our parts volume.
The conversations
it's
are
insane.
Yeah. So I think my biggest takeaway from today is, going back an episode or two, do that SWOT analysis, be honest with yourself, right? Come up with a pretty detailed plan of where you want to be. And then maybe talk with a distributor, call Kleen-Rite and talk with us, or, talk to another really successful operator. Figure out, is that plan achievable? Do I need to scale it back? Do I need to do a little bit more? And then it's time to approach the bank and try to get that debt ratio right so that you can get your ROI.
Yeah. And if you do, I ask everybody the same questions. If you do call me, which they do every day, send me some pictures, give me the address. I'll look at it on Google. Tell me what you're charging. And from the pictures and from what you're charging, I can give you a 10,000 foot view of where you can go. We look at the competition down the street. We look at how many rooftops are in your general vicinity. If you're literally in a farmer's field and you're 50 miles from the next rooftop, I would say I would probably keep it the way it is. But if you have 5, 6, 7,000 people, 8,000, 10,000, whatever it may be, which most car washes do.
Yeah.
Then there's potential there.
Time to capture that market.
Yeah. And that's really what we're here to talk about is we would not be doing this podcast if people at our in-person seminars were not the people listening to this going, here's what I have. What do I do? What can I make?
How do I do this? Yeah.
And we're here to tell you that there's a lot of runway.
If you're thinking about it, start the conversation, get involved, get some confidence, and make some moves.
Yeah. And you can grow your business. I'm telling you, you can grow your business 2, 3x with some of these old self-serve in-bays, not 20, 30%.
Yeah.
It's not worth it for 20 or 30% to borrow money. I wouldn't do it either. But for a couple X's, I would.
A couple X's. All right. I think
one more thing before we go.
Hit me.
And
I love it.
And this is something else that I always tell people, times have changed, right? And the self-serve and in-bay industry, we built out very heavy in the late 90s up to probably about 2008. And at the time, it was $2-3 million to build a site, like a 4 and 2.
A new site.
Okay. With development, it took 2 years. You had to go through the town, you had to get permits, you had to hire a contractor, you had to jump through many hoops, and it would take, like I said, 1 to 2 years before you ever put a shovel in the ground, before you ever had income. And people were borrowing money, and those people that did that were successful. They're successful operators today. However, jump back 10, 15 years before that, those people are selling their car washes off for $100,000, $200,000. If you can pick one of these up and you don't have to spend $2 or $3 million to develop a new one and wait 2 years to get the income, why wouldn't you buy a car wash for $150, put $350, $450, $550 into it? You still can't build one for that. And you get instant business as soon as you get done with your renovations. It's a no-brainer.
Because everybody knows that the wash is already there anyway.
That's right. That's right. So I that's what I wanted to leave you with. It was on my brain.
I love it.
Phil loves it.
Yeah, it's a great thought. It's a good view from a distance. Right?
Yeah. So we're here to help. Today was a great session.
I would say if you're thinking about it, reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's get you moving in the right direction. We can hook you up with whoever you need to talk to.
And we have financing as well, for equipment anyway. We don't do real estate financing, but we are attached to equipment financing that you can apply right on our website.
That's a perfect last note.
All
right, everybody. We appreciate it. Simon Ice, again, we appreciate your support, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
See you next time. Thanks.